What do you have to say about this, Sauron?
Sauron was defeated, but at great cost.
Elves and men wept for the loss of their kings, for the like of Gil-galad and Elendil would never come again. But there was joy too, for the war was ended, and none could see the sorrows of the age to come. The ring should have been destroyed on that day, but it was not. Isildur took the ring as payment for the death of his father, and the travails of his people, an heirloom of his house, and a record of their triumph over evil. The several kindreds that composed the alliance returned to their homelands, nursing their grief and holding dear the memory of their triumph. We believed that Sauron was good forever, and it was not so. Yes. What do you say, Isildur?
My memory is less certain of the years following the defeat of Sauron.
Yes, Guthava's enchantment still enweaves my mind, and I find it difficult to clearly recall the events that transpired afterwards. There were 2 years of peace, that I know, and during those years the kingdom of Gondor was restored to order. Vows were taken before the oath stones, and a tomb made for my father at Amon Anwar. It was to be a hallowed place. At last it was time for me to take up my father's place on the high king throne in the north. My queen and my youngest son waited for me in Rivendell, where they marked the time during the war, so I chose not to sail. With a company of knights, my sons, and the heirlooms of my house, I rode north, to my death and the death of my sons. We were all betrayed. You have agreed to help me avenge this treachery, Pineleaf, but I do not see the face of my betrayer, and cannot remember what befell. In my mind's eye I see only a chamber with a white stone beneath a rotating beacon, but it's all hazy as I look for a great distance. I do not know what the vision signifies. Guthava's enchantment released my grip upon my mind but slowly, and leaves only a mystery in its wake. A chamber with a white stone, is that one of the oath stones, or is it something else? Well, Gandalf, what do you think about oath stones?
Yes, my friend, I know what chamber Isildur describes.
Yes, I know the chamber. Many pieces fall now into place for me. For as Lendelin, I knew many things and saw much. It is if it is as if a room that had been sealed to me had been flung open, and while the pain is unwelcome, the knowledge is not. I deem it as a worthy trade, though Glorfindel regrets the necessity. This I believe, Pineleaf. It was known to Sauron's servants that Isildur perished in the Gladden fields. They scoured the swamp lands hereabout in search of the ring, but they found it not. In time his bones were removed and borne away to places of great evil. Perhaps to the very houses of lamentation it is said lie hidden somewhere within Mordor. What unholy rites were performed in these remains? I hazard no guess, but in time perhaps even the servants of Sauron tired of this villainy, and his bones were brought to some chamber where they, in time, were forgotten. The white stone Isildur describes must be the Vandastar of Duath, which stood in Minas Ithil until the forces of Sauron captured that city during the Second Age. It was moved to Barad-dûr at the direction of the Witch King, hauled on a great wagon pulled by the hill trolls on to Gorgoroth. It was in the dark tower that the Bright Company broke the spells upon it. After the war, when the Alliance razed Barad-dûr to its foundation, the Vandasar must have been returned to Minas Ithil. So that explains the white stone. But what of the rotating beacons? Indeed, there was a beacon of some note in that city, kept in the upper chamber atop Barad-Curon, the tower of the crescent moon. It seems to me that the bones of Isildur came to lie within that tower. If his shade is to find rest, these bones must be removed. But let us not now dwell upon this task. We have been some time away from the Bjorning lands, and Grimbeorn may worry of our absence. You mean Grimbeorn, who would rather that we leave forever? Yes, that Grimbeorn, yes. Oh, we should return to him and assure him that we still have need of his hospitality. I'm sure he'll be happy about that. I desire only to return to my study of the Black Book of Mordor, for I see now that some things I long held to be certain were perhaps not so, and I wonder at some avenues of learning I might have dismissed too readily. We shall see. Back to the Bjorninghus. We're back!
So, the wizard and the elves have not gone?
Yes, and here I hoped you might have gone and taken the wizards and elves with you. It was a pleasant thought, but now it's all dashed. Well, I didn't think he'd be pleased to see me again.
If they remain, you must still perform the chores I ask of you.
Yes, as long as those elves and that wizard remain, you must continue to perform the chores I ask of you. We have need of firewood, for so near the mountains the nights can be cold even in summer. And there are still orcs and wargs about, despite your efforts the other day. Put an end to their raids and teach them a lesson about persistence. Carry out these chores, and I will allow the wizard and elves to stay a little longer. Right, collect firewood, defeat orcs, and defeat wargs. Yippity-doo. Yeah, right. And I think I've got some firewood right here. Good. That's one bit. Any more around? With a little luck, we'll find some. I suppose Ugrif would be the ideal place to look for wargs. And again, maybe the wargs will be looking for me. Yeah. Ouch. There you go. Now for you. And you. That should be my quota of wargs at least. Now, where am I going to find some orcs? Remember there being some orcs up around this way. And in fact, there still are. Well, we have to deal with that. Well, if I could reach them. Alright. That's how you foil a hobbit. Jump on top of a rock. Yeah. Some things haven't changed in 3,000 years. Now, you? Oopsie daisy. That probably wasn't the best way to do that. Fortunately, I think I'm better than two orcs, right? Of course I am. And now for you. And I'll be done with Grimbjorn's tasks in no time. I'm back with the firewood.
Yes, very good, fine.
Yes, you've done the chores I asked you to undertake and earned the wizard and elves a few more days of hospitality. There is something else, however. It is not a matter of real concern, but I find I have not heard from the elves of the forest gate in some time, and I wonder if it's a signal of some trouble for my folk. If it does, I would have this problem resolved early rather than late. Go to the forest gate and make certain that the elves have things well in hand. If they don't, be sure to tell them so. All right. I shall do so. I see a couple of dead orcs here, but the elves seem to be fine. A number of dead orcs lie near the forest gate. Yeah, I noticed that. Thindrif.
A raiding party of orcs sought to leave the forest. You can see what happened to them.
Yes, it is curious indeed for orcs to challenge us on the road. Did they not know our quivers hold their doom? They did seem driven by some desperate haste. Search the bodies, and you may learn what caused them to dare the gate, so to their sorrow. So they sought to leave the forest. Maybe other elves drove them out? But probably they wouldn't drive them in this direction. You search the orc but find nothing to explain their presence here. Alright, what about this orc? Anything interesting here? This orc bears a symbol of Ugrikor, the captain of the pit. Ugrikor? What about this? This orc died wielding his sword, but it did not protect him. Well, yeah. Not going to protect you very well against arrows. And you find nothing of interest on the dead orc. Right. Alright. But it looks like... yeah. It appears that they may have been working for Ugrikor.
Their need must have been great to challenge us.
Did you
and
find...
they paid dearly for it.
Did you find anything that might explain why the orcs dared to attempt the passage at the gate? Wait a moment. Did you say you searched the bodies of 4 orcs? Now, that's most peculiar. By my bow, I would swear that the raiding party consisted not of 4 orcs, but of 5. Can it be that one of these creatures slipped through the forest gate while we were distracted by the others? Search to the south of the Bjorning lands for the missing orc. There may be some tracks you can follow to the hiding place, if you make haste. Right. So... tracks of orcs. Seem to have gone this way. Hold on. Something strange about this bush. Let me see. Found the missing orc's hiding place, but he's dead. It carries a crumpled note. Interesting. The note speaks of something called Fochgurth. Right, which Gandalf may be interested in. We found what you sent us to search of, Ugrikor, but my boys need a big reward if you think we're giving it to you. These were elves crawling all over the ruins, and we barely escaped with our lives. Well, it appears to me that you didn't quite do that. We had to take the long way and ran into some trouble with her minions. They were going our way, and none of the boys wanted to chance it. We're going to try the elf gate next. But we found the opening spell, or part of it anyway. The Fachgruth won't remain closed to you any longer. How badly do you want it? Maybe me and the boys will bring these words to Gothmog. He'd find them interesting, wouldn't he? And I'd wagered he'd be quite generous. You promised a reward. Double it, and he'll never see this opening spell. I'm sure you'll make the right decision, boss. Well, if they thought that being shot by elves was bad, I wonder what Ugrikor would have done if they really attempted to blackmail him. Gandalf, I found this note on some orcs that were attempting to break through the forest gate.
Oh, you have returned. What is it?
Fachgruth? No, I've never heard of it before. That is not important right now. I need to speak with you, Pineleaf. Well, it may turn into something important later on. Just beware of that.
I suspected there was something I missed in the Black Book. And I
Yet?
was right.
I could not place my finger on what I missed, but something stirred within the recesses of my mind, and I found a new avenue of study worth following. Will you hear me, Pineleaf? Things are not as we believed. Well, if I remember correctly, when we started this investigation, we thought that this was your first time in Middle Earth, right? Alright, fine.
Listen now to my words and the words of Voin.
Back into the halls of memory. From my earlier study of the Black Book, we learned of Voin's encounter with Magoldir the elf in the Grey Mountains and their subsequent friendship. Unremarkable, perhaps, and yet we marked it, for an air of mystery surrounds this tome. Both the circumstances in which it was found and the writing between its black covers fills me with intrigue and unease in equal measures. From the shade of Isildur we learn something of Magoldir the elf, and few of his deeds seem notable. It is no slight to him, merely the truth that his most significant achievement appears to be his survival. Nearly 2,000 years passed before his name surfaced anywhere, and that is in the Black Book. What then of Magoldir's inclusion? Why did Voin see fit to write of this elf? Yeah? You must return to these halls of memory, to Voin's account in the Grey Mountains. Yes? Right. Okay. I shall do so. Through the memories of the ages. Gandalf flips through the pages of the Black Book, as usual. Alright, we are back here where Voin and Magoldir met, and we also have these figures that we do not know the identity of. What was Voin to say about this meeting? Listen well, Pineleaf. Hold, strangers! Who goes there, and for what purpose? It is a dwarf. I am called Magoldir. My boon companions and I mean you no harm. You are an elf. That is true. The mountains are no place for an elf. I think that is less true, Master Dwarf. We go where evil lurks, and oppose it. Magoldir did not adventure alone. I have learned the identities of the others in his band. Oh. Consider them now, and I will share you what I have learned. All right? Indistinct figures. They were knights of Gondor, adventuring far from home in the years after the Battle of Fornost. They sought out pockets of Agmarim, resistance in the mountains, and ended their threat. These were their names: Orolang, Makilnis, Calatur, and Silmatar. You know these names, Pineleaf, as do I. And you know the name of he whom they pledged their loyalty. Eärnur. What? Before he became the king of Gondor, he was its prince. While his father Eärnil ruled from Minas Anor, he did the bidding of Gondor in the north. Eärnur fought at Fornost with his knights, and it was these they met Magoldir. For 20 years after the Battle of Fornost, they sought to end the threat of Angmar forever. This brought them to the Grey Mountains, where they met Voin of the Zelruka. Yes, Pineleaf. With deception, Voin masks the name, but it is of Eärnur he writes. The very same Eärnur who would become Mordor, the false king of Angmar. The same Eärnur who commanded the armies of Mordor in the guise of Gothmog. He troubles us still and makes his presence felt even in this tome from 1,000 years ago. Oh, fun. I should have known, Pineleaf. I should have read the signs. So what do we make of this?
Gothmog has been responsible for much sorrow in each of his guises.
It seems, too, that Gothmog's fate is interwoven with yours, for even the tale of Voin is not free of his corrupted touch, though it be written almost 1,000 years ago. Gothmog has been a long Cymry font of evil. He can no longer remain unchallenged. It is time at last to put an end to him. These past few years reveal to us that which we did not know. King Eärnur was not slain when he rode to Minas Morgul to confront the Witch King. He was instead transformed into Mordor, a thrall of the Lord of the Nazgûl. It was by Mordred's hand that the shadow fell upon Angmar, but he was opposed by Goldir, the ranger that Narmleth of Linden, to say nothing of a certain warden of my acquaintance. Mordred's design was broken, but his spirit persevered, and he was given a new guise and a new task. He would command Sauron's armies in war, second only to his old master, the Witch King of Angmar. But the Witch King was slain at Pelennor, as few only might have dared hope, and Gothmog's confidence in his own invulnerability was shaken. He fled the field, escaping to Imlad Morgul, and sealing the roads in and out of that vale. While Sauron thrived, the free peoples of Middle-earth had worries enough to occupy their attention, and Gothmog could be set aside. But now a new fear presents itself to me. Gothmog has had time now to lick his wounds and search the valley for artifacts that might reverse his fortunes. What terrible sorceries might he have discovered?
King Elisar has charged Prince Faramir with cleansing the evils from Imlad Morgul.
Yes, we have cleansed. King Elisar has challenged Faramir, Prince of Ithilien, to cleanse the evils from Imlad Morgul. Find his men at Finis Ghost, the dread door on the western bounds of Gorgoroth, and aid them with their mission. They will not be able to stand alone against Gothmog, but your help may tip the balance in their favor. Remember, my friend, Minas Morgul was once the tower of Minas Ithil, a jewel of Gondorian art and culture. But it has spent long centuries corrupted by the Nazgul and Sauron's other terrible servants. None can say what dangers you will find within, but I trust that if any hobbit has the courage to face them, it is you. And what we find there, we will find that out in the next episode of A Tale of Two Pine Leaves.